Hey gang, before we start the show, I just wanted to remind you that you have less than 1 week left to enter our contest where you could win yourself a $60 gift certificate to put towards WWE 2K16. So how do you enter? It's simple. Head over to byte.com/WWE2K16. Remember, you have to be from a .com, .ca, or .uk address to be eligible. So head over to byte.com/WWE2K16. Good luck.
On this episode, we talk about Rusev and Lana getting engaged, Dolph Ziggler versus John Cena, Global Force Wrestling, Sasha Bank's popularity, The Authority missing WWE RAW, and more now on Byte That. Hey gang, what is going on? You're listening to episode 112 of Byte That's weekly wrestling podcast, the place where we sit down and we talk about wrestling. We actually sit down and talk about the WWE and everything that goes on inside of the squared circle. Thanks for tuning in and checking out the show. Remember, we are available every single Tuesday night on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, ByteThat.com, and of course for this and tons more, including reviews, unboxings, WWE gameplay videos, head on over to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ByteThatCast. My name is Juan Velez. I am from San Juan, Puerto Rico. And joining me as always, first, from Boston, Massachusetts, the self-proclaimed ultimate warrior of the galaxy. I just made that up, Ryan McNulty.
What's going on, Juan? You know, let's try to embrace the power of positivity this week. We were a little negative, a little overly critical last week. So, you know, we're just going to try and maybe.
I think we were the right amount of critical last week.
That's Keith Poshik, by the way, people, from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada.
The self-proclaimed Debbie Downer, apparently.
No, I think last week's podcast, for those that basically didn't have a chance to check it out, we talked about a lot of the issues that we have with the WWE right now, and that a lot of people seem to be sharing. Now, when we stopped recording, we did have a mini conversation, I guess, of were we too negative? I myself was kind of like worried. What are people going to be thinking? But honestly, this is an offline conversation we've had for a while, right? Just generally about some things happening. So it's not like we weren't honest.
It's tough when the show is not as enjoyable. It is tough to try and always have the positive outlook on things. And we also kind of want to stress that, you know, we just give our opinion. We aren't acting like we know all the answers. Like, we could solve all of WWE's problems. We just give our take.
But what if we could?
What if we could?
How rich would we be? But yeah, I mean, what it comes down to, the reason why we do this, the reason why we watch Raw every week is because we're passionate about wrestlings. We're fans through and through. So if something isn't very good, we're going to be passionate about it sometimes. And if that means having to say a negative thing or two about it, well, that's what we'll do.
Hashtag damage control.
Exactly. All right.
Now, and just think about this little comparison. Keith, I know you have a movie that you're going to like, or hopefully you'll like. Star Wars is coming out pretty soon.
It sure is.
And I know that, for example, is a very devoted audience. So we had the original trilogy, right? Then the other three came out. But when's the last time the last one came out?
Oh, God.
Revenge of the Sith,
2003, right? 2004 was Sith.
Yeah, see, for us, we don't have, like, the first trilogy and the second one. Like, we consume this weekly for basically all our lives. So if people get critical of 6 movies that have come out, you know, in such a long span of time, imagine us with wrestling. Every single Monday, you know, every single pay-per-view that happens on a monthly basis. You bring up your NXTs, everything else.
Yeah, the nice thing about wrestling is there's always something new to talk about. The downer about wrestling is most of it isn't good.
So let's actually slowly delve into Raw,
Revenge of
which
the
had
Sith was 2005 before all the nerds come chasing after
2005.
us.
Oh, all right, thank you.
And more damage control happening right here on Byte That. So regarding Raw, usually we are treated to that of Triple H or Stephanie McMahon or John Cena. We have Dean Ambrose open up the show, which to me definitely caught me off guard. I thought he was going to be in a match, which he later on did happen to be in. Had a pretty good in-ring segment with Randy Orton. Then lo and behold, New Day comes out. They have this great thing where, was Randy going off character laughing because the first part you could see he was trying to sort of be serious, but then just having a good time watching the New Day make fun of him. Or was that just me?
I think when the New Day was basically talking about all the groups he's been in and how they're not as great as the New Day, you could definitely see that he was trying to hold in his laughter and then he just like stopped trying.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we have that. And then that inevitably leads to a tag team match. And I gotta say, I like how they did this. Usually, it's way more obvious when a tag team match is going to happen, you know? But this, it felt a little bit more organic, and I like the interaction. Did Randy seem almost out of place for a little bit? Because he's usually so much...
How so?
Because I always see Randy as like the more serious guy. And it was funny because wasn't it last week that we were sort of talking about WWE bringing things up from the past, but New Day did exactly that. So it was kind of funny just seeing Randy reacting, considering each one of those Randy Ortons has been a different character, from Legend Killer to, you know, Legacy, all of that.
I can see what you're saying, but in recent memory, I wouldn't really consider Randy being the super serious guy. Because remember, this is the Randy Orton that RKO'd somebody and then did like a cartwheel and jumped up in the air and grabbed his feet, right? Like he's had his zany moments. Yes, the Ortons they mentioned in those promos were mostly serious, crazy Orton. But I don't know, he's changed. I think Randy does his thing.
His gimmick is he's care. Randy Orton.
Pretty much. Like, look at the time that he thought the camera wasn't on him and he blew a kiss to his wife and it looked like he was blowing a kiss to Roman Reigns. It's one of the greatest things.
Did you guys appreciate...
I didn't even know about that.
Yeah. Did you guys appreciate the fact that Orton and Ambrose are basically hyping up their Hell in a Cell match, but then New Day comes out, it's like, yeah, so you guys are sort of overlooking the fact that last time you guys were sort of laid out by us. So they are sort of bringing it back to the New Day, having a great combination of comedy, but then they can be serious when they want.
Yeah, I mean, the New Day has been excellent. Obviously, they're the best part of the show, so WWE's theory has been, let's put them in everything.
And it's worked.
And it's worked, yeah. No, I really enjoyed them kind of coming out and... like you said, a different way to kind of start a tag team match. Instead of the Authority being there, someone comes up to the ring and then the Authority's like, now you're going to face Bray Wyatt. And he just comes out and they fight. They actually let them kind of banter back and forth, get a little bit of beef with each other, and then have the match.
Exactly. And every time I get to hear Big E say, "Oh, City," or whoever, "don't be sour," is the best thing ever.
You know, the funny thing about that is they announced that tag match, right? For whatever reason, my first thought is, but Dean Ambrose isn't wearing his wrestling outfit. Then it's like, wait a minute, his wrestling outfit are jeans. I don't know why. I, for some reason, imagined Dean Ambrose in tights or something.
Congratulations. He's only started wearing those jeans since the Shield broke up.
I know.
Roughly? So way to catch on.
Yeah,
then.
what did he have, like combat pants before then?
Yeah.
Or
yeah,
something?
like black.
But it is
Shield
funny that
gear.
he did feud with Luke Harper, and like both of those guys essentially have the same wrestling attire, albeit one a little bit greasier than the other.
Yeah, they changed his,
Pretty much.
his tank top to a black one during that feud because I guess they realized, yeah, they both kind of look the same, attire speaking, so good call there. The one quick thing I want to bring up during this match that gave me a small headache, I'm serious about this, is... so, you know, Randy goes to places in his head. They come to him, and then he delivers an RKO.
That was a lame line, by the way.
Yes.
When he was like, I was hearing voices in my head. That was a cringy line.
In theory, it probably sounded great. One might say on paper it sounded great.
guarantee
But
you,
the second it left his mouth...
It seems like a very poetic line, but just in the wrestling crowd place, you're in Chicago, which is a whole nother thing we can get to later. I don't think that worked too well. But he's going for the RKO, right? So... in a perfect sequence, JBL, Byron Saxton, and Michael Cole go to how, like, every single catchphrase they can bring up to Randy Orton. Oh, he's going to that place. Oh, and that annoyed me. That annoyed me so much. we sort of talked about this last week. It's overly produced. I could almost feel the lines being written across the desk or something, and then they just reading it out.
But that's something that's been going on forever, though, right? I'm not saying that makes it good, by the way, but HBK would tune up the band back in the day, and Hulkamania ran
Yeah, but it wouldn't be
wild
all
and stuff
three
like that.
commentators saying a different nickname or a quote at the same time, almost in perfect harmony.
Yeah, I mean, how much more can we say that the commentary is just bad, you know?
Yeah.
And it's forced and overproduced. I think that pretty much just sums it up. It feels inorganic, which is a big overarching problem with WWE.
You know, we made a promise to be a little bit more positive, right? So let's actually switch
We're
it.
really
yeah,
delivering,
we're sort of
Yeah.
trending right now. I don't know how this is going to go, but they did openly reference the match between Bayley and Sasha Banks, having that graphic across the screen, just putting Sasha Banks over in a great way. You saw the Chicago crowd, probably the best crowd after TakeOver, to just sort of, talk about all this. And then Brie Bella goes on top of the announcer table and screams, "We want Sasha," and the crowd goes mild.
Honestly, it's the best thing to do. Like, hey, now they figured out this way to stop the crowd from hijacking Raw. They just go out there and address it, and all of a sudden it goes to a dead stop. It was kind of incredible,
They figured
really.
out their secret weapon is to
Brie Bella.
embrace something that people like, and
And
they'll
then just
stop doing
punch him
it.
in the face.
Because everyone gets so annoyed by Brie yelling, "Come on, Nikki!" So they were like, "Hey, let's stifle those Sasha Banks chants by just having Brie Bella scream it during a match that Sasha isn't even in."
Now this is interesting though, because this means that they are perfectly aware of the fact that a good chunk of the audience, I'm not going to say all of it, obviously not everybody watches NXT, is aware that Sasha Banks is somebody to really watch out for, even though she's barely been featured on the main roster so far. I mean, with a Team Bad, they've pretty much been on the sideline for the Divas Revolution. Do you think that this is part of a plan where it's like, let's see how loud the crowd goes, almost like a Dana Bryan situation?
Well, I kind of want to bring it back a little bit, Juan. Do you think it is one of those things where people are understanding who Sasha Banks is, or is it just another one of those things where some people saw or heard somebody else do it and they jump in? Kind of like the "We Want Lana" chant as an example. That's just something that they started chanting, and it's just one of those things that never stopped. So how organic do you think it really is?
I think it's in the middle. Odd example. When ECW was a huge thing, I would always hear about ECW, but I can watch ECW. So whenever I could get a taste of it or I saw a reference, I would mark out. And I think it's a lot like that, where people are like, "Did you see the Sasha Banks chick? Look at this video clip or something. Hey, that's her down there, man. Let's yell her name out." So I think it's a way for the people that do watch NXT to get everybody else on that train.
Yeah, I mean, the main WWE audience has not been that much exposed to Sasha Banks, but there's still, I think, a good enough chunk of every crowd that watches NXT to basically get that chant going.
And you're in Chicago.
And then, and then everyone else just kind of follows suit.
True enough.
So Divas Revolution, do you think that Sasha Banks will play a larger role?
Who started the Divas Revolution, Juan?
I don't know,
Who
man.
started
I'm
it?
stuck between either Paige or Mae Young. I'm thinking of
Pretty
going a little bit old school.
I think Hacksaw or Hillbilly Jim might have started it.
Oh! Who do you think started it, Keith? Come on, man. Give us your
I
analysis.
don't know. Probably Wendy Richter when she beat the Fabulous Moolah and revolutionized women's wrestling back in the day. Then the Rock and Wrestling connection happened. It revolutionized more than the Divas. It revolutionized wrestling a whole. And yeah, it could go on forever. Who cares who started the Divas
Apparently
Revolution?
they do.
Seriously.
Really hard.
Well,
they-
the writers love it.
They love it, Michael.
I don't, like I said before, I don't know who wants to take credit for it because it's pretty bad right now.
Yeah, no
I'm just
kidding.
going to say Santina Marella is runner-up for second in starting the Divas Revolution. Now, John Cena,
who?
Santina Marella. Santina Marella. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Making sure
his
he's-
sister.
Yeah. The right
Yeah.
one.
What? The right one. Anyway, okay.
I thought you said Santino, so I'm
Well,
correcting you.
technically he counts too. somebody that doesn't have to do with the Divas Revolution, but with the terrible, this is horrible, John Cena, people. Let's talk about John Cena and the U.S. title situation. The U.S. Open Challenge continues. It started off pretty early during this Raw, which always leads to, I guess, a more predictable opponent. Obviously, last week, Dolph Ziggler got the short end of the stick for other reasons, so this time he gets his match. I'll be honest, I even sent out a tweet saying something along the lines of that I just don't really care too much, but by the end of this match, it reminded me again of what happens when you put a guy with John Cena in the ring, and that is that sooner or later, you give a damn about that match.
Yeah, I mean, we all knew the end result, but it doesn't mean we can't enjoy the journey to that predictable result. I mean, it was an excellent match. What else can you expect? You can't really expect anything more than at least Ziggler to get his stuff in and just have a really awesome match, even if he's not going to win. So I really enjoyed it for what it was, albeit predictable.
Yeah, for what it was a phenomenal match, and you can't deny that. But I think it leads to the question of, does the John Cena US Open Challenge actually do anything in the long run for anybody?
First of all,
well,
DDT.
It at least entertains us,
can
right?
we talk about that DDT quick? The beautiful one in the corner, Dolph Ziggler.
It was a work of art. It was a thing of masterful beauty.
See, notice how I tried to bring up a positive thing? I wanted to break that off, and now we're going to go back into the power of negativity. The John Cena US Open Challenge. Yeah, what do you think, Ryan? Do you think it still has a place? We loved it at the beginning when it started. You had your Sami Zayns, your Nevilles, but now, what about now, Ryan? What about it?
I think it still has its place. As long as we've said plenty of times, as long as they have a plan for one of these guys, as long as it elevates at least one guy in the end, I think it's all worth it. These are all excellent matches. The US belt, let's make no arguments here, is a lot better than it used to be as far as prestige. Maybe they should stop interrupting a match to talk about a marriage proposal, but I think
but she said yes. She said yes, Ryan.
She did. Yes, that's a question about match integrity.
Yeah,
right
ring
there.
psychology.
Hold on a second, Ziggler. I'm gonna go pick up a microphone and talk about these people in the freaking 30th row, proposing whatever. Oh God.
Okay, so what you're saying is they should tighten up that kayfabe and if you're wrestling somebody in the ring, you should probably not take a break.
It's a title match. It is a title match.
You're the champion. You're the champion.
Yeah, a way to make your opponent seem credible, where it's to the point where you can stop and go hype what's going on in the crowd, him being on the ground, and then you beat him later. Way to just kick someone while they're down.
You know what? We're giving the crowd too much power, man. All right? They're already, they've already become self-aware, and they're chanting, "We are awesome" and stuff. We can't all of a sudden, just because there's a marriage proposal going on, interrupt a match. At least maybe Michael Cole and JBL can talk about it and cut the camera real quick. But for Cena in a title match to legitimately stop, unbelievable.
And this opens up Pandora's box. Obviously, somebody's going to go, "Oh, they stopped the match for that guy, so next week when I propose during Raw..."
Yeah, now you could have 10 people getting down on one knee.
So many upset marriages.
Just to get the camera to cut to them.
It's like the people that jump into the ring. There's really no different. By doing something like this, you're also giving them incentive to jump into the ring. Does that make sense?
And I mean, if that's something you're going to legitimately do, right? Maybe you should try and get into contact with someone with WWE and then have it happen in between matches or something. You know what I mean? That they can devote a little time or whatever. They do at the baseball games and all that stuff.
And talk about a bad time to propose. During a match, did they care so little about that match or something?
And God, I hope she's a big wrestling fan, because if not, that's a real bad time.
They even interviewed them after the show, so they went backstage, which begs the question, do you think maybe it was planted?
I don't think planted, but I do think, like you said, Ryan, it might have been planned.
Yeah, I mean,
If so, then why did they plan it
Hey,
for
put
them?
it this
My
way.
mother
Number
of God.
one, we
Yeah.
are talking about it, and I guarantee you almost any podcast or online outlet covered it. There's going to be countless gifts, so we are part of the problem. So the problem's not them. It's actually us, especially Keith. I think you're the problem.
Well, rest in peace, kayfabe. We barely knew ye.
Hey, man. We go from this topic. You guys know what we're talking about now. We're talking about people getting engaged.
Yeah, speaking of marriage proposals, this one's a humdinger, isn't it?
So at some point during the world of the wrestling entertainment, Rusev and Lana were a pair, right, guys? Just making sure I'm going down the right path.
Yep, you are correct.
Yes.
So throughout time, they split up. Somebody cheated on somebody. Something happened. They dumped each other, and then they went their separate ways. Lana went with the master of the zigzag, Dolph Ziggler, and then later on, Rusev got to, I guess, do the hibbity-dibbity with Summer Rae. And then now, Lana and Rusev get engaged in real life, so in storyline they bring it up. So basically what that means is that all of that happened, and then we basically ended up with the main people at the beginning, but then Ziggler is just lost in that shuffle, but he posted something on Facebook, and then Summer Rae is kind of like, all right, I'll just slap you, and then that's it, guys. So is this it? Is this it? Are we done?
I'd love to think yes, but they're gonna find something. They just have to, because this thing is like a cockroach. It just won't die. But I actually want to call you out a little bit on this one, if you don't mind.
I'm scared.
So last week in that friendly episode we had, you spoke a lot about you would like to see wrestling get more, quote, real, right?
Yes.
Does something like this still make you want the WWE to go down that avenue? Because this is them getting as real as it gets. Or something happened in real life and they reflected it in storyline, right? There was no rhyme, there was no reason for it, but they still did it. So is that still something you want to see?
It makes things way more convoluted. It's one thing to have a Dana Bryan movement, right? Where the people really care about this and the people influence that into happening. Let's face it, okay? Let's be perfectly honest here. Does anybody think that WWE did not feed this to TMC and they covered it? This is part of the storyline. As real as it is, they got engaged a month ago, apparently. So now TMC is just magically covering it before Raw magically starts, and it's, just out of nowhere brought into the storyline. I think they really are playing into the whole reality era, where it's like, let's bring in the Total Divas type thing, which even brings up the question. I mean, we brought up the whole Dolph Ziggler thing last week with Total Divas. I think this has a place in that. It makes a lot of sense because one of our things was, well, isn't Dolph with Lana and kayfabe or something? Well, not anymore. So guess what's going to happen? Who's Dolph Ziggler feuding with now? John Cena. It's almost like wrestling is planned, guys. Is it? Wait, Keith.
Maybe. No, it's definitely all real. But to get into what you were saying earlier,
so is Santa Claus.
Your kind of theory that WWE set everything up, because I was kind of looking at it the other way, is based on how Rusev was treated. Let's think about this for a second, okay? You want to talk about like elevating guys? Look at what the hell has happened to Rusev. This guy was on top of the freaking world at WrestleMania. Now he's jobbing to Ryback in like 3 minutes.
That was a bad match.
He hasn't won a pay-per-view match since Fastlane, which was in February.
Just think about, like, it's no wonder that nobody ever gets out of the mid-card, seeing as what they've done to Rusev. But basically, someone kind of theorized, I read somewhere on Reddit, so it's true. They had a theory that because that TMZ story got out, that was like them punishing Rusev because they had to kill off the storyline that they just started last week. Because basically the way that the internet age is and everything, you can't ignore TMZ and stuff like that, because you're just insulting everybody's intelligence. Nobody is believing in Summer Rae and Rusev if everybody already knows that Lana and Rusev are engaged in real life. So they're not going to just continue that storyline. It's like the Kane and Lita thing. When everyone found out about Edge and Lita, they just had to put them together because everybody already knew.
Okay,
Very good point.
That's a fair point. That's a good point. You basically derailed what I was going to say, where it's wrestling, it's a TV show. They should make you believe, even though you know it's false, they should still give it an honest shot and not just abort ship.
This brings up an interesting kind of question of, can they ever do any love angles ever again that aren't real couples in real life? Or is it eventually just going to get ousted because everybody knows what's actually going on?
I think the better question is, should they do any love angles ever again? And the answer is probably no, because they all end up like this.
Yeah, and let's be honest. Love angles worked in the Attitude Era and Ruthless Aggression Era because they could be way more real into all of that.
And I mean, the internet didn't really exist then either, right? So
Yeah,
you
that's
couldn't,
true. You didn't know about
go on
everybody.
TMZ and find out what's going on. So
No, but even things like the live sex celebration, I mean, which super uncomfortable. I always think to myself, what were people thinking when they were there live? Just like next to another dude or something. It's like, man, look at Edge and Lita in there. Edge clearly has a boner. I don't know why I'm talking about Edge's penis right now, but I just brought it up. But you could get away with more.
You didn't have a moment saying, what did I do with my life to lead me to this point? You were not thinking straight.
Yeah. So to add some closure to this, because anything can happen. The way they ended this segment, Summer Rae could be done. Rusev could get a character
Summer
change.
Rae was great, by the way.
And that's what I want to bring up, because now that we have this closure, for better or worse, where does this leave at least Summer Rae and Rusev? Do you guys see a good process for Summer Rae, which she did an outstanding promo that with anybody else, people would be like, no, but it worked for her.
I think the next thing is, I'm pretty sure Ziggler's kind of out of this whole picture for now. I think they're just going to drop that and hope everybody forgets. But there's a good thing of, like, you could have Summer just manage somebody else. Like, I think she could be a really good manager. So have her pick somebody to manage and have them feud with Rusev.
Exactly. I think that's exactly where they're going to go there. She'll probably get somebody like a Mark Henry or a Big Show that makes Rusev feel like the underdog in that feud, and maybe this leads to a face turn for Rusev.
Rusev. Incredible monster at the beginning. Yes. And now loses to Ryback seemingly very easily, and then the way for the storyline to end is that he got engaged. Where does he go from here? Like, what do you guys feel for Rusev right now as a character? Are you intrigued by what can happen now that they've openly acknowledged that him and Lana are getting married? If anything, Lana turned heel because of the way that Summer Rae talked about things. So
we don't even know what anybody is anymore.
I don't know.
Is Rusev a heel? Is Summer Rae a
Are you still
heel?
from Boston?
Like, I think so.
Okay, good.
There's my bicycle.
I feel like you have to think that Summer Rae is almost the face in this, isn't it? Like, she's standing up for herself, and she was the one who was cheated on. And Rusev's supposed to be the scumbag who said he was going to get engaged to one woman and then is actually engaged to another.
And the Authority missed all of this because apparently they just couldn't make it to Raw. Because, you know,
Great bosses.
You're basically the owners or the people that are in charge of all this, and then you're not there. Did you guys think this is kind of lazy storytelling for Kane? Because it definitely felt like this is just the only way to get Kane's thing over a little bit more. But the only solution was to have them just not be there?
I mean, they always do these. It's ridiculous that, you know, the amount of time it takes to set up Raw and all the preparation that they do. It's like, for anyone to believe that they're not there like hours and hours in advance, and to think, oh, there's so, you know, we missed a flight or whatever, is kind of ridiculous. And the sound quality, it seemed like they were just like on the other side of the wall.
They probably
on the phone, you know
literally
what I mean?
were.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, throw in a little bit of static.
Yeah, they had like a Dixie cup with a string on the other side, you know?
So we do have a lumberjack match to sort of close off Raw. We have Seth Rollins versus Kane, but Corporate Kane could not wrestle. Now, I really want to ask you guys.
Swerve of the century, right?
So immediately, the only logical thing is they're going to bring out Demon Kane. But for the whole thing, for like the 10, 15 minutes, apparently everybody in WWE is clueless. From Seth Rollins to the announcers, Demon Kane comes out. It's like, oh my God, it's Demon Kane. And I shut the TV off. I'll be very honest. I shut it off.
Did you really?
It's one of those you can't have your cake and eat it too situations. You want to acknowledge things that happen in the real world and in real life, and then you want to suspend disbelief that there's two Kanes, and just because one of them can't wrestle, the other one is good to go. It's
because think about it.
I turned it off too long.
There's not
it was liberating.
Is there Corporate Kane and Demon King?
Demon
King. Wow.
Okay. Demon King. Oh, jeez. Anyway.
I've never seen a fight like this
Is
before.
he related to Burger King?
All right, well, things got weird. Okay. So, are Corporate Kane and Demon Kane separate people on the WWE roster page? I don't think so.
And I think, didn't Triple H straight up say, like, Kane, you can't wrestle? Guess what? Corporate Kane and Demon Kane share the same thing of the fact that they're Kane. So technically, still probably wasn't even able to wrestle.
Maybe it was like a technicality thing. He meant like a Kane, like Cain could wrestle.
I actually got excited that it was going to be something else too. But this also raises the question of why do they just give away matches? Like they just hand them out like it's nothing. Like Seth Rollins versus Kane is supposed to be your World Heavyweight Championship match at Hell in a Cell, and they're going against each other 2 weeks before. Like, how is that supposed to get anyone excited to see the same exact matchup?
But it was a lumberjack match. That makes it so different, right? It's not a one-on-one. I know. That was a joke. Ha 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 ha. But I think the reason why they do something like this is because for Hell in a Cell, yes, it is the World Heavyweight Championship match, but it's not the main event because Brock Lesnar and The Undertaker.
Should they give away any pay-per-view match before the pay-per-view?
No. I agree with you on that. And it's probably considered lazy, the fact that they would.
And I think that this crowd, keep in mind this is Chicago, which is very different. They really just were dead silent when Kane came out. Because you could tell everybody's faces is like, so this is how we go home from Raw. Like Kane versus Rollins, the match that's supposed to happen at Hell in a Cell. And I even said, and we've sort of talked about it, it's not like we're completely sold on this mixed Kane, but it is intriguing and way better than, just Corporate Kane. But them giving away this match on TV, even if it was, maybe like an incomplete match, a lumberjack match, whatever, it didn't even matter who won, because I did watch it later. I saw the recap on YouTube. I don't get it. Like, I really felt like, so what am I getting at Hell in a Cell? Other matches aside, Seth is the World Heavyweight Champion, but it feels like John Cena is still the man to beat.
Because he is.
Yeah.
Quick comment about Roman Reigns. Tell me what you thought about his interesting promo, to which the crowd didn't react too well to.
When Roman Reigns finished his promo, God, I'm so negative this week again.
We're trying, though. We are trying.
When Roman Reigns said his line, "You'll wish you were in there with anyone but me," and then basically dropped the mic, I had to get up and walk away. It physically pained me for how cringy that line was. But no, I wasn't a fan of that promo.
I, on the other hand, thought it was okay. And I actually feel for Roman Reigns. Like, when he's out there, I really want him to succeed. And it annoys me that the crowd will just... I feel like even if he was doing great, they would crap on him. So they never do him any favors. And I know it's Chicago and they're going to be tough. But I don't know. I'm the type of person that I will never chant boring ever at a wrestling show. Like, even if I'm not interested, I think it's just one of the rudest things you can do. Like, I always feel for and respect, the people in that show. Like, if you were out there performing, you wouldn't want people chanting boring to you. The silence is enough to let them know that they're not doing what they should be doing. I don't know. I just feel like sometimes the crowd can get on my nerves. Yeah, it wasn't amazing, but I saw some signs of life in there. When he felt the crowd chanting boring at him, he tried to get a little more personal, talk about his daughter and all of that, and he got a little more amped up. And I think he's showing signs of improvement to like on the fly try and get people into it.
But at the same time, I think that he made a misstep when he just straight up addressed the crowd, because you're almost antagonizing the crowd at that point. Like, oh, you're going to talk about the fact that they're chanting boring at you. So now they're going to keep, it's almost like a chicken and egg. It's just going to keep escalating.
You know, you
on
learn
itself.
that. You live and learn. And I think he's going to get better.
And if anything, it made the promo a little bit worse for me, because that to me was the tipping point. Because think of it like an improvisation game. The rule of improv is you don't say no to the other person. You try to you try to go with the story. So people are chanting boring. He says, this isn't boring. This is real life. So you're basically telling the crowd that they are wrong. I don't think that is probably I can't even say that word, the best way to address that. And after that, you could see the intensity in his voice. You could hear it, but you could tell he was trying really hard to just sort of like, okay, I got to win this. I got to win this. It felt a little bit desperate.
And then that anyone but you line just...
This
that
isn't
was
boring.
nail.
This is real life. Well, it's not actually real life, but you know what I mean.
And I mean, isn't the point of somebody going to a wrestling show to escape real life for just a couple of hours and enjoy this big produced show?
So much positivity happening here again, right?
Let's not get all existential over here, Keith.
Yeah, let's get to a couple of announcements. Get the power of positivity back here in this podcast. Remember, we do have a WWE 2K16 $60 digital gift certificate, as Mr. Poshik Lovely brought up at the top of the show. 1 week left. All you got to do is go over to bytethat.com/WWE 2K16 to enter. All the information is over there. Also on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/bytethatcast. Ryan and myself have been uploading a couple of sexy videos. Ryan talked about the defeated streak mode on the channel, WWE 2K14. He tried to conquer the streak, and I think he did. I mean, he did. I'm just trying to act like I don't know.
Hey, no spoilers. Go watch it.
Yeah, check it out. It's awesome.
But you want to know how he defeated the streak, and that is why you must watch this video and enjoy.
I talk about James Storm going over to NXT, and you guys have been wanting to hear a little bit something about a future video that needs... we've had part two of this.
Part 2?
We need to get part 3, Ryan. When are we getting part 3 of Stevie Richards' Here Comes the Pain story mode?
That is a great question, Juan. And I said question. I'm going to say question now. So we'll be doing part 3 of Stevie's story in WWE Here Comes the Pain this coming Friday, October 16th. We will tweet out the time. It's probably going to be 7:30 p.m., but I'll announce an official time on Twitter. So just look out for it there.
7:30 p.m. Eastern, to be specific,
Yes, Eastern
right?
Standard Time.
And while we're on the topic of Twitch, remember to follow us on Twitch, twitch.tv/bytethat. This is where, we really get a chance to engage with everybody, not just play games that are either wrestling or non-wrestling, but, everybody comes to hang out. It's really great. And for the month of October, I know that we're going to be doing some cool things. So anybody else want to talk about that?
Sure. We're gonna play some spooky games, aren't we, guys? We're gonna play the Resident Evils. We're gonna play the Silent Hills. We're thinking of a name for it, so maybe we'll ask you out there. I think Shocktober's pretty good.
Shocktober.
Or
Fright That.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
Oh, all right. Never mind. Fright That. Fright That begins very soon. Don't know exactly when yet, but very soon. And I'm going to play through some Resident Evils. We're going to start with the old ones. We'll do the 1, we'll do the 2, we'll do the 3. Ryan's going to do some Silent Hill. It's going to be spooky. It's going to be scary. There might be a little bit of skeletons shivering down your spine. And when pizza's on a bagel, you can eat pizza anytime. Stay tuned to the Byte That channel for more information.
And this week we have a brand new episode of Fight Night, which is our sexy fantasy wrestling league in WWE 2K14. Which, by the way, if you're a big WWE 2K14 fan and play online, remember the servers will be going down very soon, and we'll be having something pretty cool happening in the near future about that as our little farewell to 2K14. And this weekend, I am going to be posting some unboxing videos of WWE Stackdown. So a lot of things happening, guys. It's been a packed 2 weeks accidentally on the channel.
Man, fright that. What a
good
call,
job,
Ryan.
Ryan.
Thank
Good
you.
call.
Thank you. I'm pretty proud coming up right on the spot with that one.
Okay, guys, so let's go back into men in spandex. Okay, so we are going to bring up something that's not WWE. We haven't done this in a little while. We got two topics. Number one, Global Force Wrestling.
Except it was literally minutes ago when we talked about Resident Evil.
But in the world of wrestling, Keith, go along with it, man.
Sorry.
Getting all technical up in here.
Sorry.
Okay, so Global Force Wrestling is debuting a show on TV in the near future called AMP. For those that don't know, Global Force Wrestling is Jeff Jarrett's latest take on providing wrestling entertainment that is not TNA. They posted a trailer for what is supposed to represent, I guess, what their TV show is going to be about. To summarize, they talk about that this is not going to be scripted. This is going to be sort of pulling behind the curtain. And then they show some of the people that are going to be there. Obviously, Jeff Jarrett. You have your Brutus Magnus, Mickey James, former WWE star Brian Myers. You have a good chunk of talent.
Chris
there.
Masters.
Yeah, Chris Masters. Basically, a lot of people that have either recently been in TNA or just around the independent circuit. So like Justin Gabriel, a.k.a. PJ Black, is going to be there. The three of us had a chance to check out the trailer. And I want to get your feedback, not on the editing, but more of the atmosphere. You saw the ring, you saw the talent, and you saw the approach that they're taking. What do you guys think?
Well, the six-sided ring reminds me of TNA, but that's besides the point. And Amped does kind of sound like E-Fed type name, but all that aside, it's a very interesting take where it's going to be almost like a reality show about a wrestling show, if I'm correct.
That seems to be the take, because they do show like more family. They talk about the sacrifices.
But what I want to know is if it's just a reality show based on this wrestling show, does the wrestling show even really exist? Like, does that wrestling show really have its own show? Or is it just to that audience, it's that wrestling show?
I think they're going to sort of total divas it at some point where, yeah, it's real. Like what happened here is true. But then everything else afterwards is sort of like, yeah, we still need to carry on a weekly show or however frequent it is. So I didn't really buy into that.
If you want to just see the wrestling show for what it is, you have to be there live. Because otherwise it's going to be like the reality show about that wrestling show. Is anyone else confused?
Oh, no, it's bananas. But I need a reason to believe, and right now I don't have it, to believe that this is not just going to be TNA 2. With the whole six-sided ring, most of the roster is from TNA. And didn't TNA try to take this reality angle a while ago?
Yeah, for a little bit.
Am I crazy to... Yeah. So how is this going to differentiate itself from TNA? And I think that's going to be one of the most interesting points of GFW, whether it is a success or a failure in that respect.
I think GFW is going to be a continuation of TNA, as in like post 2008 TNA. I think that was the sort of the coup de grace. That was the point of TNA that a lot of people liked. And then I do think Jeff Jarrett can have something cool going on with this. I think they have a nice roster from what I've seen. I'm definitely going to check it out. So we may not talk about it maybe on the show, but on the channel when that comes out. And I want to get your guys' feedback. Everybody listening, did you check out the trailer or anything about GFW? If you like it, drop a comment.
Drop it like it's hot.
Now, two lightning round topics before we go to the questions, because these are two groundbreaking things, both involving WWE and NXT in particular. I mentioned it on a video. James Storm, so this is a bit of a spoiler, but WWE's basically said it out everywhere, is now part of NXT. He's going to be having a similar thing to Samoa Joe, where he's going to finish his contractual obligations in the independent scene and then basically work on NXT. So James Storm and NXT, your comments.
Interesting that he got to keep his name, but I guess it's very similar to a Samoa Joe situation. But it's really cool. There's a lot of talented people in TNA, and it's good to see that WWE has kind of finally embraced bringing some of them in. So it's just really cool, and I'm happy to see him in NXT.
Agreed. From the TNA that I watched, I like James Storm. I like his wrestling style. and I'm interested to see what he will bring to NXT.
Yeah, I'm definitely curious. I think it's going to be a fun thing. And as I mentioned in my video, begs the question, who's going to be next? And now, he is going into NXT, but WWE and Evolve, which is a great independent company that's like a collaboration. It's a different set of groups, maybe not companies, involving Shimmer, etc. Sami Zayn is going to be appearing at the upcoming Evolve shows as NXT Sami Zayn. There was a rumor a while ago that the WWE was interested in maybe purchasing Evolve for an extended developmental territory or something. What do you guys think of a WWE guy going to an indie show and then maybe announce something? Because as far as I know, Sami Zayn can't wrestle and is not going there to wrestle. So what can come out of this?
Well, based on kind of what you were saying about there could be some sort of partnership, maybe Sami Zayn is going to kind of act as like an ambassador for that, and he could be there to make an announcement. So, I mean, like I've seen, some of these guys do work, like they'll work independent shows and stuff every once in a while. But since Zayn can't wrestle, I assume it's going to be some sort of announcement.
Yeah, I agree with you completely, Ryan.
Yeah, so I'm definitely going to keep an eye out on that. Maybe post a video depending on the magnitude of the announcement. So without further ado, Mr. Poshik, cut the promo regarding the questions that we will then answer right here.
That is right. That is right, because you have questions and we have them answers. I mean, I hope we do, or else why do we have this question segment if we
Pressure's
don't?
on.
I know. Pressure is on. And if you want to send that pressure our way, send us a question. Twitter, YouTube, email, Wrestling Amino, Facebook, everywhere. Send it to an Instagram. Why not? And send them to bytethatcast@gmail.com. Bytethatcast. Just put in Byte That. We'll figure it out. All right.
Thank you for the directions, man.
No problem. It's one of my favorite things to botch every week. I'm not gonna lie.
It gets worse every week.
But I know. Much like me. Our first question comes in from David A.
Hey!
And he asks, David A. asks, what do you think about the WWE banning Seth Rollins' curb stomp? Officially, it was never reported being banned due to concussion potential, but many have speculated that Vince McMahon had a personal distaste for the move. So what do you think? Curb stomp. By the way, that's speculation. So
I personally really like the move, and I felt like it fit Rollins, but I can understand why they wanted to get rid of it. It's not exactly if your champion is doing a move called the curb stomp, it's not really PR friendly. It's also a move that a lot of kids could easily do to each other. Kids like to play wrestling as much as they throw those don't try this at home. So if a kid's just kind of like on the ground playing with toys or whatever, some other kid just might jump up behind him and curb stomp him or something.
It's not funny, but it's hilarious.
Jeez. Anyway, that's my take on it. So I can see why they got rid of it.
I pretty much did.
Just pedigree your friends instead.
Yeah, exactly. One move for the other. I pretty much agree with what Ryan said. However, I never liked it as a finishing move. I think it's a cool move, and on smaller guys it worked better. But on bigger guys, it's like, I don't know. I was never a big fan of it. I just think it was weird how, they got rid of it basically when he became champion. So we had a champion that for a couple of weeks didn't really have his own finisher, and even now it's still like, yeah, he has Triple H's finisher.
Agreed. And let's all be real for a moment. The second that Seth Rollins curb stomped Big E on Martin Luther King Day, that probably should have been the end of that move. So thank you for the question. And our next one comes in from the true Prince of Pro. They're both shaking their heads at me. Why are you shaking your head
It's you, man. Just look at you.
Yep. Just read the question.
All right. True Prince asks, this week, I've been watching a lot of original programming on the WWE Network. He was watching an episode of The Countdown on the 10 weirdest tag teams. After watching that, he was wondering, what strange pairing of two people do you think would become a successful tag team?
Two best examples I can think of, obviously, we had Team Hell No with Kane and Daniel Bryan. Another great one was Booker T and Goldust.
Well, his question is more, I guess, towards like what would another theoretical.
Oh, theoretically? Okay.
Well, for me,
come up with...
Yeah, so come up.
Okay.
We got to come up with
All right,
some.
you go ahead, then.
I actually thought of a badass team that I wanted to be official. Imagine the ECW Kurt Angle, where he's like, just badass wrestler, with ECW / early WWE Rhino. Just that combination of like athletic badassness and just like gore and like just bashful. It'd be like a modified lower card or lower tier power trip.
I agree. To kind of take your angle as well, using current guys, I think a very odd pairing that would be interesting would be Neville and Braun Strowman, because you have the power and then you have the athleticism. Like, you have the fast and you have the brick wall. I think it'd be a very weird pairing.
What do you call them?
It would clash. I don't know. Stromel? Yeah, we'll call him Stromel.
What about just Stromboli? Because it's delicious.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what about this? Maybe isn't as odd as it might seem, but Bray Wyatt and Bo Dallas as the current gimmicks.
Believe in
the buzzards.
Yeah, believe in the buzzards, man. Let's go with it.
All right. So thank you for the question, Mr. True Prince of Pro. Our next one comes in from Gug the Dio, the holy diver, except not so much, who asks, which is worse, Randy Savage's album or the booking of the divas in the WWE? Sir, to you I say that Randy Savage's album is a work of modern art and it is a thing of beauty.
I actually agree with Keith on this one.
Yeah, may Randy rest in peace. That album was, at the moment, a little bit traumatizing, but it's part of history. And
if you've never heard Be a Man Hulk in your life,
exactly,
stop this podcast and go listen to it.
And now that you're back,
and then come back, because
my answer is divas.
All right. He also asks, how do you think a brand split would work in wrestling nowadays, since the mid-card talent is better than ever, with people like Neville, Cesaro, Ambrose, and Ziggler just kind of sitting around?
Honestly, I think for a long time, a lot of us were against the brand split. Remove an hour of Raw and then keep the different products. Keep SmackDown and Raw as their own separate things. So that way, now, I think the WWE desperately does want to create a different type of audience where you have your Rusev and Lana love triangle storylines, but you can also have the more serious Bray Wyatt, Roman Reigns personal storylines. And just split the shows based on that. I mean, they're going to have an NXT Kids show now, which is basically NXT redubbed by kids, apparently. There's a pilot about that. So if you do want to go down the route where you're providing different alternatives...
Wait, what?
Yeah, they're doing NXT Kids. There was a pilot where it's Corey Graves commentating NXT with kids, and it's pretty badass, actually. It's like...
That sounds like an amazing show.
Yeah, so I actually want to check that out. A lot of people are saying, like, yeah, that's a little bit better than the Raw commentary team. And I don't disagree.
I believe it 100%.
I don't think that a brand split would be a good idea, like in this day and age, because if you're making two brands, you're creating an A show and a B show, right? So now you're throwing the guys... You could be throwing great talent on the B show no matter what you do, right? So now do you do the whole trade thing where some guy gets big enough, he moves to the A show and maybe gets lost in the A show? I think it creates a lot more headaches than they need right now.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't do the brand split right now just because there simply isn't enough star power to carry even one show, it seems like, at this point, never mind two shows. But if we were forced into that situation, I would put John Cena on SmackDown because it would be the only way to get people to watch SmackDown. You have to put your top star on there. Raw's already seen as the main show, so you can pretty much have anyone on there, and people are going to still tune in for a while, and if you make it good enough, they'll stay around. But Cena needs to be on SmackDown for it to work, I think.
I agree with you completely. So thank you for the question. Our next one comes in from Anonymous. Ooh. And they ask, what do you think of this new Adam Rose cryptic promos angle?
He's desperate.
Yeah, I think he's just trying to get something going because he has nothing going, but there was a hint of the bunny, so who knows what could have happened.
Who knows? And I mean... it can only go up, right?
Well, yeah. Like Kruger can come back, but then we've already talked about that pot of worms.
Yeah, who's gonna care exactly? I don't know. I don't see how the Kruger and the Bunny are related though.
But E60, man, or the was it E60? Yes,
it
so
was.
that was
the
good.
E60 on NXT.
Yeah, that was great.
It was.
So there's that.
Yay. Next question comes in from Joe K, and he asks, why do you guys think Mr. McMahon doesn't make appearances anymore? He's said to be one to do anything good for the company, so why not start an angle with him versus the Authority?
We've already,
I think...
You go.
Okay, all right. I think with Vince is that he doesn't want to be the one that has to carry the show anymore. He doesn't,
Agreed.
he wants a long-term answer, and Vince McMahon is very much a short-term answer where he'll show up and do an angle just to get views and stuff. I think they want to kind of set a new precedent. They want, if it's going to be, somebody in charge that's going to be involved in an angle, they at least want it to be Triple H and Stephanie who are going to be taking over the company when Vince McMahon passes the torch, essentially. So he wants the burden on them and not on himself.
Yeah, no offense to Vince McMahon at all, but he's an old guy. And when you put him on TV now, he's not seen so much as the owner. He looks like an old guy. We've said it about Undertaker, and it's just, once again, we go back into the Attitude Era pool. We're already sort of doing that with Triple H and Stephanie, where it's like somebody from the past that's taken over the company now. If you go down the Vince McMahon route, if anything, it's like you bring in Shane McMahon, and then you're like, okay, I think that would be the ideal step that's probably never going to happen, but that would be something new and refreshing. With Vince, it's like, it could give you views for a little while, but we already had that when Shane and Vince feuded with DX, with the new modern DX and all that, and we still have the same issue now. So that's just going to lead on to what next?
Exactly. It's a very short-term solution to a long-term problem, because Vince could show up, and then what happens when Vince can't show up anymore? It doesn't, They should focus more on a long-term solution, and then stop bringing in legends like The Undertaker, Ric Flair, Shawn Michaels, and whoever else they're bringing in next week. Our next question comes in from Jay Gore Gaming. Ooh, changing it up. Jay Gore.
Gore.
And he asks, if you were to have someone from the WWE guest star on the podcast, who would it be and why?
Well, funny, we just talked about that old man that shouldn't be on TV, but how could you not pick Vince McMahon? I mean,
real talk for a second. Okay, let's say we got Vince on the show. Number one, would it be not the worst show ever because we would be terrified? And number two, what would we even ask him?
There's
how
so
big
many
is
things we could
Batista's?
ask him.
Honestly, for me, okay, in the Vince McMahon thing, hypothetically, if we got him here or something, just somebody with that power, with that knowledge, I'd just be starstruck being like, man, just thank you. I mean, people can complain about Vince a lot, and I don't think we know enough or anything about backstage to really give an opinion on that. But that'd be great for me. Legitimate answer: The Big Show. Why? The guy was at the top of the food chain on WCW in his debut. He was part of that ECW, and I would love to know what he really thought about that. And the guy's been through everybody in WWE. So he's somebody that you can talk about his size, like height speaking and wrestling. So there you go.
Oh my God.
I am
You
five.
really picked the Big Show.
I am five. Yeah, no.
Really?
Honestly, I will.
Out of anyone?
Honestly, I prefer to talk to Big Show over John Cena. Keep in mind that in my case, I came from watching WCW, and I'm thinking, who could I talk to that has wrestled, Macho Man, you're Hulk Hogan, you're Stone Cold, you're The Rock. The guy has been involved with everybody that has pretty much been involved in our
So it's
youth.
all for who he's been involved with and not for who he actually is. I see
Yes.
the kind of person you are.
Wow,
Juan.
that is a weird way to, yeah. Huh.
Yeah, you learned a thing or two about yourself, didn't you? But honestly, if we could choose anybody from the WWE, I wouldn't even choose a wrestler. the person that I would want on the team or on our show is one of the lead writers in the WWE. And I'd like to just talk about
Do
what
you want to go
things
down that
are
route?
like. I would love to. I would love to hear what's going on that side of the equation, because it's something that we never hear
What would
about.
be your first question, straight up?
The lead writer, is he just got one of those like little hats with the propeller on the top? Like,
You never know. But honestly, one of my first question would be like, what is a day? What is a Monday like from your perspective? And just try and break down like what actually goes on when making one of these shows
what
happen.
vomit do you spew onto that paper and then produce a show with?
But I think maybe that it would create a situation, not to be the negative Nancy that some person from Boston is being right now. Maybe it would kind of give a whole side to the equation of maybe we could understand why some of the things happen as they do. You know what I mean?
I think we are all very much owed an explanation for the last 3 weeks of TV, so that might be good.
Owed. Remember that. We're owed it.
Yes.
So thank you for the question, Mr. J4, J Gore, whatever you're calling yourself this week. And our next one comes in from NKBE1324. And they ask, why does WWE feel as though they have to incorporate the actual engagement into the Lana storyline?
I think we sort of already kind of covered this, and just to kind of reiterate, is everybody has the internet and everybody finds everything out now, so they might as well not insult our intelligence.
Pretty much that. They had no choice, whether they planted on a TMZ to publish or they found out and had to adapt. There's not much else you can do, because if people already had an issue with that storyline, even though this maybe didn't solve the issue, but at least it ended it. Hopefully.
Yeah, maybe it's a blessing in disguise from that respect. It's the silver bullet we were hoping for, that it finally put an end to that thing. But I don't know. I don't think they should feel this need to do it. Maybe just keep it as like a TV show that you watch and enjoy, and not everything has to incorporate real life.
It's too late.
Yeah, man.
It's the reality era.
Reality.
I know.
It's real.
So,
This is real life.
It is. Is this real life?
Is it?
Or is this a fantasy? Are you caught in a
No
landslide?
escape from reality.
We're not going
you.
to sing the rest of that.
No.
Oh.
But we are going to answer this next question from Amandeep. And they ask, hey, Byte That. Hello. After watching Cena versus Ziggler on Raw, I think one can clearly say now that Cena buries superstars. I don't think you can clearly say that at all, sir, but hey, that's a whole other story. I mean, at least make Ziggler kick out of one AA and then have Cena AA him from the second rope and let Cena pin him. What are your thoughts about that? P.S. Love the podcast. Well, thank you. That being said, sir, I have some grievances with your thoughts here. I'm trying to word this political minefield, but not everybody needs to kick out of an AA. You know what I mean? Doesn't always have to happen every week. You don't need to bring out the super AA every single week. Just because there's a difference between John Cena beating a superstar and him burying a superstar. Yeah, things haven't really gone the best for most of the Cena Open Challenge people, but that doesn't mean he's burying people every week, right? Am I wrong with, or like, am I alone?
I
feeling
agree
like that?
completely. I mean, basically Rusev losing to Ryback, that felt like a burial, whereas Ziggler was in a hell of a match. If anything, that makes Ziggler look good. And the kicking out of the AA doesn't really matter, because we can look at a guy like Kevin Owens or Sami Zayn who have kicked out of AAs in the Open Challenge, and do they really feel that much more elevated? Because they ended up losing out anyway. So how much did it really do?
It benefits nothing really, because it makes the AA look weaker.
Exactly.
And then where do you keep
we'd actually
going?
talked about where it become sort of a novelty that everyone was just kicking out of the AA at least once. So it's good to kind of just establish that on Raw, one AA generally means that it's over with.
Yeah, I personally like that they sort of lowered back down on that, because it seemed like for a month almost, we could just get 2 attitude adjustments in a match and it didn't matter. I think Ziggler was just a victim of circumstance where, yeah, you're sort of the first guy that's going to go back into that well of 1AA, beat somebody, but somebody has to take that. And I'll be honest, take a guy like me, for example. I stated that I didn't really care too much at the match starting out, but I cared about it at the end. And I think the purpose is more of that. Once again, to get exposure for those that Ziggler has been in the company for a long time, but we forget that not a lot of people, just sort of know the whole roster. They know John Cena, they know Undertaker, they know Triple H. And when you see somebody have a good match like that with Cena, I think that definitely helps out. It doesn't justify, I will say, like, Cena beating them all the time and the challenges maybe doesn't hurt them, but it doesn't benefit them either. But I guess we can always extend that conversation because it never really seems to end.
Agreed. So thank you for the question, sir. And final one of the show, I think we're going to switch it up. Juan, you're going to take this one.
Do it, man. Philly Chili right. Evans here. What up, Philly Chili? I'm just going to call you Pissa. Okay.
Philly Chili Evans, Team PCE.
Yeah, PCE. The other thing sounds wrong. 2 points and 2 questions, which I would like you all to comment on, relating on the hype / getting people over, and the reverse, which is burial. Some more burial talk. Things I noticed upon watching Neville get squashed by Sheamus is just a little bit referenced. Topic number 1, Neville, is he buried? I mean, he barely got any offense in during his match with Sheamus. The distraction from Barrett was enough to put him away. The match didn't even last 20 seconds. Can he recover from this? How did he go from NXT champion and top guy status to basically some small cruiserweight pushover? Is it really fair how they treat him? Don't even try to play it makes Sheamus look really strong excuse. I think that's more towards you, Keith. It's just bad on everybody. It hurt Neville and no one cares about Sheamus anyway. If they want to make both men look strong, they could at least do a decent match and then have Sheamus go over due to Neville making a mistake. Neville, guys.
I feel like this is that Daniel Bryan video. We're just going to bury
everybody.
Yeah. But, okay. Real talk. Did that bury Neville? Because I really don't feel like I did. It's not like he just got pinned clean, like match started, boom, bro kick, 1, 2, 3. There was storyline justification for Neville getting distracted and beaten. It was a thing to further storyline between him and Barrett, and I don't know, to me it didn't come off like, oh, this is the end of Neville's career, whatever will we do? I don't know, I don't see it personally. And as far as the whole, he went from the NXT's top guy to basically some small pushover, I think you gotta hit the reset button when somebody jumps up to the main roster, because they're basically going from the small pond to the big C. And not everybody's going to be that top guy, right? So look at Bo Dallas. You could say the same thing about him. So.
Yeah, it's true. It's a totally different story on the main roster. And yeah, Neville's kind of in a not the greatest place right now. They're not really doing a ton with him. But I wouldn't consider it burying because, like I said, they at least gave him the whole distraction finish. So it's not a complete burial, and they haven't quite kind of found their place with him yet.
I think it's a combination of once you're in the main roster, you got some spotlight, and let's see what you do with that. Kevin Owens, same thing, comes in, beats Cena. When Neville came in, everybody made a big deal. He was the guy that always showed up, to face somebody. He even in the John Cena US Challenge, which we just talked about, had a great match. I think that Neville's ceiling in the WWE is honestly very low, because the guy cannot talk on the mic, at least from what we've been exposed to. I'm not saying, independence or anything. I'm basing it solely on WWE. And I think that has a limit because there was a comment on Squared Circle which hit the nail on the head. Neville has done multiple Phoenix splashes off the second rope, right, guys? But Seth Rollins is the one that you think back. And it's because it means more, the build-up. Neville is, a lot of people just say like a spot fest guy. He's a flippy guy. And there's nothing wrong with that. But at least for me, that's not what I look for in a top guy. He looks like a top guy, and he wrestles incredibly crisp. But I do think that there needs to be something more. And I think that's going to be what's going to hold him back.
I think he's a top guy from the neck down in that, like, I think the hair and everything, he doesn't have that kind of great look. I think he could definitely maybe get a better haircut or something. And I don't know. I'm just not a fan of that as far as like kind of that look. But obviously, like you said, maybe he does a little too much so that he doesn't have enough left to kind of surprise you. But then again, I mean, the guy is so insanely athletic. He maybe has more tricks up his sleeve that we don't know about. And I bet he does. But it could be that maybe he does too much that now it's kind of like, Red Arrow, now we've seen it a bunch of times, even though it's still an insanely impressive move. But I think the guy has a ton of potential. World Heavyweight Championship material, I just don't think they would ever think to put him up there, even if he is insanely talented.
He'll make a great Intercontinental Champion.
Sad but true. And second question, the power of the finisher in getting a guy over. This was brought up in Stone Cold's podcast with Paul Heyman. Best example, he brings up how Mark Henry just beating someone with a headlock could be devastating given the circumstance and build-up. Do some people need a new finisher? Which finishers in WWE are just awful and should maybe be scrapped? So basically, which finishers don't work? And is there any option that's not Bad News Barrett or Wade Barrett? Because I've said it since day one. That elbow, no, it just doesn't work for me.
I like it.
But you're a little biased.
Yeah, let's go into some Fight Night territory here. You've liked that move for like 10 years. But yeah, I think Bad News Barrett, I don't like it. There's no build up to it. Even if he does like the whole pullback thing, I feel nothing from the move.
But is that the finisher's fault, or does that fall on the superstar? Like, to use the example of the Mark Henry thing, Mark Henry, if he wanted to make a headlock look intimidating, he could do it, right? So where does the blame actually fall on this situation?
I think it's probably more on the performer.
I agree.
And that's why I actually am not really a fan of Dean Ambrose's like Dirty Deeds double arm DDT. Like, it doesn't look that devastating. Mm-hmm. And not to mention his, Dean Ambrose's whole moveset, I guess. I don't like that damn second rope clothesline. I know it's not a finisher.
He's listened to you.
Yeah, I will use any opportunity to bring that up.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, that being said, would switching up a finisher actually solve anything, or would it just be replacing one problem for another?
Yeah, I think that's the real question. And I think we've gone down a route where the finisher is just the finishing move, as opposed to like you're working the whole match towards this one thing, like a Ric Flair working towards the figure four, or Kurt Angle working towards the ankle lock. I know those are more submission moves, but yeah, it doesn't feel like it has any buildup. It's just a move where either they kick out and then it's like, whoa, or it's like, well, it's a finishing move. What do you expect?
Naomi needs a new finisher too. Shoving your ass in somebody's face should not be a finisher. Unless you're Rikishi.
But he even had the
even
Rikishi
then, it
driver.
wasn't even a finisher. Yeah.
So I guess we can agree with Bad News Barrett and Dean Ambrose. Yeah, the Dirty Deeds DDT. It looks like a normal DDT that they just branded it into something else.
Which everybody and their brother does.
If anything,
right now.
Ziggler's DDT on Raw, the one from the second rope, that to me is like a finisher, and that.
And Ziggler's regular jumping up DDT is far better than the zigzag or the Dirty Deeds. Like, that should be his finisher. It looks way better than any other DDT on the show.
Agreed.
So thank you, Mr. Philly Chili Evans, PCE, for the question. For everything else, there is MasterCard. But if you really want the juicy stuff, you know what happens here. Ryan gets hyped, and he delivers a message. Ryan, I need to hear.
I don't just get hyped, Vaughn. I talk about things that you need to do, which is subscribe to this YouTube channel, youtube.com/ByteThatCast, to get all of our super insanely exciting and maybe spooky content. So this Thursday, new episode of Fight Night, there might be a little special guest star on there. Maybe two kind of special guests for this crazy show.
Maybe three.
Yeah, maybe three. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of them. Everybody's a special guest on the show. Even me and Juan. So you have to go and check that out. Of course, this weekend, Juan's going to have an unboxing video of, what is it, WWE Stack Down?
Yeah, it's kind of like Legos, but WWE needs to brand everything. They're pretty cool. I really like them. I got to build them. Haven't, but check it out.
And you can see the fear of God in his eyes when he opens up the box. So you want to make sure to check that out. And of course, this Friday, twitch.tv/Byte That. You can see me play some WWE Here Comes the Pain, continuing the epic story of Steven Richards.
Ryan,
when we last left our
can you
hero.
confirm
What?
or deny that Team Default will be in action this Friday?
If they book us, they will be in action. That's right, as we left our hero, Steven Richards, he became WWE Tag Team Champions with Brock Lesnar, known as Team Default. For everything else, you can check out our social media, Twitter @ByteThatCast, Facebook /ByteThatCast, Instagram ByteThat, Wrestling M&O ByteThat. For everything else, go to ByteThat.com, and don't forget to go to ByteThat.com/WWE2K16 to get our $60 gift card giveaway.
Less than a week left.
Yes, ByteThat.com/WWE2K16 to enter there. All right, I am done. I will shut up now. Thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next week.